Don't you?
Well, it's been a mad few days, but Arsenal are back on top of the Premier League after Man City slip up. So are my clubs showing the spirit of champions?
Marcus Rashford says Manchester United are firmly in the title race after he scored twice against Leicester. Is he the best striker in the world right now, Righty?
He's not far off, Liv. We'll also be asking if James Ward-Prowse is the best free-kick taker in the world after his goal against Chelsea, with that result piling the pressure on Graham Potter.
It was a weekend where even movie stars were watching the Premier League, and this title race is becoming well worthy of a Hollywood script.
Finally, you can buy English football at a very low price. Enjoy Premier League and Champions League full replay matches, as well as analysis shows from Premier League TV, BBC, BT Sports, and Sky Sports. Uncut with full footage. Enjoy weekend reviews, previews, tactical analysis, and more. Join us today at the link in the description below, www.primeshows.net.
For the top of the Premier League table, then Arsenal are back on top, 2 points ahead of Manchester City with a game in hand as well. Manchester United, they're in third, and Tottenham have leapfrogged Newcastle after their win against West Ham. Now joining myself and Righty in the studio is Darren Bent and Flo Lloyd-Hughes. Welcome. Righty, this weekend in the Premier League felt like there were so many big moments at both ends, or sort of everywhere in the Premier League.
Yeah, can you see how my
Just smiling. Big Cheshire Cat smile.
You know what? What's really good about this weekend was how it can change, and how you do need luck as well, and how, for me, it felt for me like if Arsenal drew that game, it would have felt like a loss with the chances that they missed. But then in the end, like you say, you do need luck. You need a lot to go for you. And, you know, obviously it went for Arsenal in that game. They missed chances and came out and won it. You saw what happened with City there. And I didn't think that was happening in certain games. But in this game, even though we did miss chances, we kind of got it done.
Yeah, Darren, did you think when looking at this Aston Villa game, did you think it might be another game that they slip up in, given what had happened in the previous couple of weeks?
Yeah, when they go 1-0 down after about 10 minutes, I'm thinking the worst. But no, fair play to them, because they've had a tough time of late. Hadn't won in their previous four. The game against Manchester City, where they were in the game first half, played really well, and then they let it slip second half. But to come back and kind of show that resolute attitude they did second half. They came out in the second half, played really well, played the Arsenal way, took their chances. A little bit of luck, fortunate with the offside and the Jorginho strike that hits the bar and comes down, but that will give them a massive lift going into their next run of games. So they're going to need it. It's going to go right to the very end.
I think so.
Manchester City are, listen, they're the champions for a reason, because they've got that mentality, and that was an opportunity for Arsenal, because we didn't know that Manchester City weren't going to beat Forest, but the fact that Arsenal played at 12:30, took care of their business, then it put a little bit of pressure on Manchester City, and maybe that's what told a little bit.
Flo, do you think this felt like a defining maybe moment for Arsenal in the title race, or is there still a lot of football still to play and we shouldn't get too ahead of ourselves?
I think it does in many ways, because their backs were against the wall and they hadn't yet shown that they were ready for the fight, because they did have quite a nice healthy gap at one point, and we hadn't really seen them under pressure when they weren't top of the table, and what that was going to be like and how they were going to bounce back. And I think that's why it feels like a turning point, because I think they've proved that they're up for the fight. Whereas that defeat against City midweek, people had felt like, right, this is now City tapping into that champions mentality that Arsenal maybe hadn't yet found. But I think it's more important for them and the fans just to realise that they're still there, they're hungry, and they can tap into it. But we know that City are going to bounce back, because they always do.
Yeah, it's going to go right down to the wire, isn't it?
It looks like it's going to go down to the wire.
You're not going to enjoy that at all, are you?
I don't mind if they can get through games like they did the other day. The one worry would be the taking of chances. You want your striker to get into a vein of scoring, so as he feels confident going in there, so as you know that you can go into a game, and if it's tight, like we've seen Arsenal in tight games, they can take the chance and then they can relax. But at the moment, I don't think they've been able to do that, because they've been missing chances. So then you see that what happened the other day, and then winning that game, and then with Forest drawing in that game, it kind of makes you realise that you've just got to take care of your own business, Liv, simply because City can have a day like that. They've done it. They've done it, and they haven't won 4 games on the spin, I think. They've done 3 games on the spin, and the 4th game they've not won it, because we know that they're capable, Liv, of going on that run, and that is what I'm afraid of with Arsenal, because I'm not sure if they go on one of those runs, if Arsenal can stay like we've seen Liverpool stay, because they They're not taking the chances to get themselves ahead in games where they can put pressure on City.
Well, that's the thing. If you go back to Manchester City, I think it was the 18-19 season with Liverpool, where they won the last 13, 14 games in a row. That's where I think if it comes down to that with Arsenal, have Arsenal got the maturity to be in that situation where they haven't been, whereas Manchester City have done that. To get to, 97, 98 points and win by a point, but win 13 consecutive games in the Premier League is incredibly difficult.
And Darren, as well, I was going to say, Flo, is that's the kind of result where, you know, even when I watched Kyle Walker's interview, I saw him do it, and you could see how angry he was. So that's going to be in their dressing room for the whole week. So next, I don't know who they got next. I don't know who they've got next, but whoever they've got next is in for a...
I was going to say, I feel like it's going to be a beating.
It's going to be a beating simply because someone's going to have to take bear the brunt of that result, because they will realise, what are we doing? This is not how we play. This is not what we do. And like even Pep was saying, I don't know what just happened.
City have got Bournemouth away next, Flo. Do you fear for Bournemouth?
Yeah, I would, because they've beaten them already. Oh, no, that was Liverpool that smashed them, didn't they, early at the start of the season. That led to Scott Parker's exit. But I do still think that there is going to be a huge fight back. And I think that's probably why Arsenal fans, even though it felt like a huge result, maybe not Ian, but some Arsenal fans are saying, right, we also need to calm things down a little bit, because there are still a lot of tough games around the corner. And those results and performances against Brentford and Everton still kind of linger in the background. And I think going forward and defensively, they still don't look as good as they had in previous weeks. And that's probably a bit of a concern, especially Saliba not quite putting in a performance that Arsenal fans are used to as well. And just a little bit of rockiness, I think, in the whole camp. But that confidence will be back now a little bit.
I think when you look at those fixtures there...
But did they worry? The ones against Leicester and Everton and Bournemouth are the teams recently that Arsenal have struggled to beat.
Yeah, and with Arsenal being at the top and having to win, because as tough as City's will be, especially with City's form at the moment, you don't know what you're going to really get, but you know you're going to get them creating a lot of chances. You feel like Arsenal are probably going to have to win all those games. And that's what they've got. They're probably going to have to win all those games, or definitely not lose them, because you can't see City, you know, dropping too many points in that side of it.
You just never know with City, though. Do you know, they've been so convincing, they put 6 past Nottingham Forest the last time they played them, but I really struggled. I was at the Forest City game, and to see them being so, like, they had no composure in front of goal was really weird for a Pep Guardiola side.
Yeah, that's not normal for Manchester City standards, and that won't last. That won't happen again, because you're talking about arguably the most dangerous centre-forward they've got in world football. Look at his numbers. And he had an off day, which shows that he is maybe human. But certainly if you look at the fixtures that Arsenal have got coming up, if you're in the Arsenal dressing room and you're looking at what's coming up, you've got to be happy with those fixtures. I know it's the Premier League, and I know you've got some good sides in there, but there's no City in there, there's no Liverpool, there's no North London derby that's got no Chelsea. There are fixtures that are all winnable. So although
Fulham frightened me there.
Yeah, but I get that. But still, if you're looking at a run-in towards the end of the season, you want them type of fixtures. You don't want these... You don't want the Liverpools and the Newcastles away. You want that type of fixture to get a bit of momentum.
Yeah, because when you go, obviously that's only up to April the 1st, but then when you go past that, you've then got a lot of those big games that you've mentioned.
Yes.
So.
But then you look at it like, you look at a Palace at home, Leeds at home, and they're not going to be easy games.
Finally, you can buy English football at a very low price. Enjoy Premier League and Champions League full replay matches, as well as analysis shows from Premier League TV, BBC, BT Sports, and Sky Sports. Uncut with full footage. Enjoy weekend reviews, previews, tactical analysis, and more. Join us today at the link in the description below, www.primeshows.net.
Listen, you are Arsenal and they're top. You've got to try and win those home games. You have to win all those home games for a start and not lose the away games.
Yeah, and Flo, in that Aston Villa game, Jorginho went off celebrating as if he should hit one top corner, but obviously it was his strike that went in off Emi Martinez, and it was a man of the match winning performance as well. So Arsenal fans will probably... He's only played a couple of games. They'll be pretty happy with that signing from Chelsea, won't they? I
think so, especially after the Everton game, when I think a lot of people were questioning the decision to bring him in and are questioning where their title race was going to go. I think that was massive, and I think people are feeling a little bit better about the absence of Partey and what that might mean for the team. I think Arsenal fans are feeling a bit more confident now, but Ian's right. Really, when you're facing City in a title race, you kind of have to win every single game now, because when Arsenal were behind in the game against Aston Villa, I think so many people thought that's it, because the assumption is City are going to go and do their thing. and beat Forest, because you just don't have that same attitude when it comes to City. You just don't see them dropping points because you think they're so resilient. But I think throughout the whole entire season, whatever competition City have been in, they've shown that they're fragile. But the depth is just so ridiculous. Yeah. That's where Arsenal are going to have to compete with a squad that is nowhere near what City have got to work with.
I quite like the Jorginho signing, but if you look at what he was thrown into, he went into an Everton game where new manager, Sean Dyche, the three midfield players that they have in there probably played their best performances in the last couple of seasons. Thomas Partey went off, he came on. It was all wrong for him, but if you talk about in terms of where Arsenal keep possession of the ball, I don't think there's anyone better in the Premier League in terms of dictating the pace of a game. So I quite understand that. Is he a like replacement for Partey? No, you can't do that. But I think it was a really shrewd bit of business from Arsenal.
Absolutely.
I really do.
If Thomas Partey is out for a significant period of time...
Don't say that.
Sorry, but if he is, does that worry you, having Jorginho, who is very good at dictating games, but he doesn't offer you, him and Partey are very different players. Does that worry you, maybe, especially when the Europa League comes back as well?
Well, the thing is there's a certain worry, but what Jorginho brings is a creativity and a progression of the ball that can create more chances for us, whereas Thomas Partey, yes, he might be intercepting more and maybe stopping them from doing stuff, which we have to then... The onus has to be on the defenders to do a bit more, because you haven't got Thomas Partey, because now you've got Jorginho. Because what we've got from Jorginho is somebody that, when he does get it, the passing through the lines and the creation, and then the getting it to score goals as well, it kind of evens itself out for me, Liv. So I'm quite happy with it. Quite happy.
I don't think I've ever seen him hit a ball like that when he played for Chelsea.
He was just in the wrong team for him.
I don't want to be the celebration police here, though. But of course, when Martinelli went through and scored that fourth goal, he obviously celebrated, as did Fabio Vieira when he played that pass. Is there anything wrong with that?
I think it's fine. I think in the case of Vieira, or even Martinelli, to be honest, the only reason you might want to be careful is we've seen players mess that up in that situation. We've seen players get right to the goal line and hit it wide or hit it over the bar. So you do run a risk of having egg on your face, but chances are it's going in and you're not going to miss an open goal. But we've seen it before, so you have to be careful. But I do think in that situation, no one thought that was going to miss.
Even Martinelli put his arms up before. I think that's quite fun.
It was almost like 100 metre, you're through and you've got, metres behind you, you're done, you can just run it.
Yeah, but it's one of the great... As a striker, though, Darren, have you scored one of those before?
Yeah.
I was going to say, have you celebrated before?
You don't celebrate before.
No,
but you know what's happening, Liv? What's happening while you're inside? Because it's not very often you're definitely going to score. The chance comes and you go, bam, then you score. But when you know you're running through and you're going to score, you get this unbelievable happy rush feeling because you know you're definitely going to score.
Yeah, but do you ever get nervous that you're going to miss the chance?
No, I remember doing that.
No. I mean, you guys maybe not, but someone like Fernando Torres, who was so good for Liverpool when he did it for Chelsea, he went round the keeper and then missed. Yeah, imagine if he'd have celebrated before doing that.
No, but I think he went through and tried to put it in with his left foot.
Yeah, he did,
You're running straight through and you know the guy's not catching you. There's nothing...
Well, there's not even
it's going
keeper
fast
there,
enough. Yeah, it's going fast enough for it to go in anyway.
Yeah.
It's the most beautiful, fulfilling feeling you can ever have in football as a striker.
Do you know what? If you watched that goal as well, Martinelli, I've got no problem with him celebrating, but what did make me laugh in that video was where, look who he runs past to get the opportunity, because Leon Bailey's running with him, and it's almost like Leon Bailey goes, you know what? He's like, let him go. And so, listen, I think he's earned the right to celebrate how he wants.
Yeah. You like it when it's for your team, but if that happened against your team, would you be fuming?
Well, the thing is that when you hear the interviews and you saw Emery's interview after, apparently he didn't send the goalie up. He said he wasn't happy about that. That's not how he wanted that to pan out. So, you know what I mean? That was something else that, Martinez just took it on himself to go up.
That's interesting. I wonder if, when that happens, when keepers do go up, do they look to their manager to be like, yeah, go?
Well, normally...
normally you do get a bit of a look and a sort of thumbs up. Go, but I think Martinez just like, I'm doing it anyway.
I feel like he does what he wants.
Yeah.
Righty, I hate to say this too early, but was that Villa performance from Arsenal the sign of champions? A little sign, maybe. A sign maybe we haven't seen
there's
before.
Fight, yeah. Like I think Darren's right. What he says is to be amongst it when you have to win, You know, because City are now in a position where they're now top. I was saying maybe Arsenal want to chase. I don't know. Because now it might be easier for them to chase. I don't know, being a young squad, Liv.
Yeah.
It might be better for them to chase because City know what they're doing up there. So you can try and, whatever City do, then you try and do it. Because no one's expecting Arsenal to do it. When the season started, this wasn't Arsenal's plan. Arsenal's plan was to get into top 4. But now this is the bonus. So I think that they can realise that we can go in a game and go again in the game. Because that's what they've done against Villa. You know, they went behind in the game, they came back in the game, they went ahead in the game, then they finished the game off. They're going to have to do that a few more times and convince themselves and get the momentum of doing that and knowing that they've got the confidence of knowing that even if we go behind, we'll continue to play how we play. Hopefully we take the chances, because then again, if you could defend like that, then take the chances when what are being created. You get more confident, and then you know you can win games. It's when you're missing the chances you start to lose confidence.
I think since the turn of the year, though, there's been a bit of a switch where Guardiola loves playing the underdog. And I think everything around City at the moment, they love this tag of having everything marked against them and chasing a team. And I think that's what Arsenal needs to be careful of, because I think City will relish chasing them. So it's whether they can handle the pressure behind them. I think since the turn of the year, Arsenal have become almost favourites for the title because of how good they've been and the results they've been picking up and how confident they've been playing. And that's why I feel like it really felt like the defeat to Everton, the result against Brentford, the defeat to City, it was like, right, OK, is it crumbling a little bit? And it's so interesting how City missed that opportunity against Forest, because I feel like this is where they relish it now, to really chase down someone and see if they're made of it.
I think the goal what Jorginho scores, where it comes off the bar and hits the goalie on the head and goes in. Yeah. That's the kind of luck when you think to yourself, it might be, you know, it might be our time, because they do need that kind of luck. And, you know, to still be going for the game at that stage where Leon Bailey not long just had a great chance what Ramsdale tipped onto the crossbar, to still be going for it was quite, for me, it was really good to see, simply because Liv, they know they have to win these games.
Yeah. And City, Darren, have been there, they've done it, we've seen it over the last however many years, that they have just got a team and a manager full of absolute winners.
100%. They won't panic in this scenario.
No.
Whereas with Arsenal, because of their inexperience of late being in this type of situation, they might get a little bit more nervous. But Manchester City right now, even sitting in second, they know exactly what they need to do. They've been there before, they're calm, they're comfortable, and it's about everyone else around them trying to beat City, Arsenal trying to maintain that position. Still got a game in hand. But it's going to go right to the wire, because you know Manchester City, even if it's a gap of 8 points, which we've seen, they can claw it back. It's not a problem. So for me, it's going to have to go right to the wire, and Arsenal going to have to show something they've not shown in a long, long time. This is a bit of, not so much bottle, because that sounds horrible, but they've got to show consistency. That's probably the right word, consistency, because they know Manchester City will not go anywhere.
And City have still got to welcome Arsenal to the Etihad as well, and what a game that will be. But Flo, looking at it from the way that Forest played, will teams look at that? And we've seen City batter teams in the Premier League this season, but we've also seen teams like Forest look at that and think, well, that's how you try and play against City, albeit sometimes doesn't always work.
Yeah, I think lots of teams have had success playing like that over the last few years against City, because they get one or two of those a season, really, where teams just defend for their lives and try and hit them on the break, because that's often what a lot of teams try and set up against a possession, team like City, who are going to have so much of the ball and just try and suffocate you. And I think teams will always have success doing that. But whether Forest can continue to do that against teams that want to have the ball throughout the rest of the season and survive, I don't know.
Yeah.
But I think so many teams have tried to do that against City and come unstuck and not have the success that Forest have. And I think it's brave to do that, but it's also brave when people try and step up to City and play up against them. But that also doesn't work sometimes. Like Brentford. And I think, people try and do it in different ways, but more often than not, you come up stuck. You come unstuck either way.
I've got to say, though, Flo, Darren, the chances that City miss they're inexcusable.
I can't. I was there, and I just couldn't understand how players in those, KDB, Foden, just at the last second, right when they needed just a bit of composure.
Laporte,
the header,
like Erling Haaland. Yeah. We're talking about. Listen, you have to give Forest credit, because they defended. Their lives did depend on it in respects of a football game. What it depends. But you just can't miss chances like that. If he brought them into this morning for them to watch that game, like sometimes you have to watch games where you don't do well in, they will look at that and say, what just happened? They're not supposed to miss those chances. Yes, Forest got away with one, but That's
And
what City
it probably
could,
won't
yeah.
happen again.
No.
A result like
No.
that, missing that many chances, probably won't happen again.
No.
Because with a team like that, more often than not, they're hitting 9 out of 10 of those.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Finally, you can buy English football at a very low price. Enjoy Premier League and Champions League full replay matches, as well as analysis shows from Premier League TV, BBC, BT Sports, and Sky Sports. Uncut with full footage. Enjoy weekend reviews, previews, tactical analysis, and more. Join us today at the link in the description below, www.primeshows.net.